Alright, in this video I want to talk about this YouTube user right here, Gevte. I don't know if it's a name like Gevte or something, but yeah, there's been a while ago that I would listen to his videos, but there were some things that were off, so I stopped listening, but I still subscribed just in case he has information that I thought would be, worth noting. Right? Like, because sometimes some people you just don't understand them, and not until later on you start to see things a little bit clearer, or you see things a bit the way they do, and then you're like, okay, now I get what you're saying. But I came to this video right here. I decided to check this video out this morning. I was like, this is off. This doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. And I guess for this part right here, I will enlarge it so that I can explain what he's saying here. And it doesn't make sense, right? For one, he's saying that not only were the Jews off by 1 month last year, which makes sense, but he's saying they're off by 2 months because he's saying that the 15th, 16th was not Passover in April, but it was actually the 16th of May when we had that blood moon eclipse, right? And I was like, okay, I will hear you out, right? He's saying, why would God put the blood moon on the second Passover, not the real Passover, right? Where everybody's off, and all these supposed watchmen, I can't take them seriously, even though they might be genuine, but they're mixing a lot of Babylon with what they're saying. So I was like, okay, I'll hear you out. Maybe they're wrong. Okay, uh, explain yourself. So he starts off with this point right here that May 16th is the Passover because of the blood moon. That's his point of view. But then he says that the 1st of May is the first day of the first month, Nisan, and right there he threw everything off. Because if you know anything, you know that the 14th day of the month of the first month is the Passover, right? So if the May 1st is the first day of the month, then the 14th on Saturday has to be the Passover, not the 16th. It can't be the 16th. It's impossible to be the 16th because we're told on the 14th day of the first month that that's the Passover. Not, oh, when you see the blood moon, it's the Passover. No, the 14th day of the first month. So right there, right when he starts off this whole thing, he completely jacks it up. Right there. Right? So either he's off about this being the Passover, or he's off about this being the first day of the month. So I was like, okay, maybe, he just messed up here, right? But I was thinking, no, this makes more sense that this is the second Passover because uh, in April, we already figured that this Saturday, the second, was the first day of the month, which makes sense that this Friday was the Passover on the 15th because it's the 14th day of the month. Because if it was on the first, it would have been the 14th, but since the first day was on the second, then it brings it to the 15th, which comes over here, and this would end up being the second Passover. And it lines up well with that, right? It doesn't line up well with this being the first day of the month, right? All right, so now let's do um, the second thing that I thought was a bit off. So this Tuesday would be the first day of unleavened bread, which would make the 23rd the 7th, which would make the 24th a Sabbath as well, the 17th and the 24th, the beginning and the end of the days of unleavened bread, right? And he calculates after the Sabbath, which would be on the 21st, then on the 22nd would be first fruits. Then after that, you count 7 Sabbaths. And as far as I know, you wouldn't count this Sabbath, and you wouldn't count like a monthly Sabbath, like here when the month changes, you wouldn't count the new moon Sabbath, as far as I know and my understanding. But for some reason he counts this, you see he circles it with a black circle as if this is one of the Sabbaths, when that's not a Sabbath day. First fruits is not a Sabbath day. So I don't know why he put the black circle here as his count. So you'd start counting here on the 28th, right? This is your first Sabbath because you got to count 7 Sabbaths until you get to Shavuot, right? So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He doesn't count the 7th. Apparently he counts it that one. So he's off by a whole week, and then he counts the 50 days, which would actually bring you to the 28th of August. He completely misses that because he left out a week, right? So I thought that was a bit off, but I was like, okay, maybe I missed something, right? I mean, maybe I wasn't paying full attention for this whole 36 minutes here. So I was like, all right, let me keep hearing him out. And this is when I was like, no, this is just blatantly wrong, what he says here. It's just way too off to be a mistake. I mean, it's simple math, right? He says, we are told that 7 weeks after the restoration of Jerusalem, the Messiah will come. 7 weeks, or 49 years, right? And he goes, Jerusalem was restored to Israel in 1967. That brings us to the year 2022. And I was like, wait, that doesn't seem right. I was like, 1967 plus 49 years brings us to 2016. This is off by 7 years. So I was like, does he just say whatever? He just says things? Does he not really think about this? And then I was like, no, this guy is way off. Way, way off. I mean, I was like, okay, maybe it's not, I'm not misinterpreting and misunderstanding and miss something. He is off. So just watch out with this guy. And if you're listening to him, all right, maybe he got some meat, maybe some truth in the things he's saying, but keep your wits about yourself because, yeah, right there, that doesn't make sense. If the May 1st is the beginning of the month, then the 16th cannot be the Passover. I mean, we're told it's the 14th of the month. It can't be the 16th just because there's a blood moon on it. We're not told, oh, when you see the blood moon, that's the Passover. No, we're told on the 14th. On the 14th day of the first month is the Passover. Simple, straightforward. So, yeah, I think he's a bit ridiculous when he's criticizing other people. Because at least these other people that I listen to, like, let's say a Barry Aw, or I got God a Minute here, and I'm listening to somebody here. I'm not sure.
Hi, this is George from Return of the King.
Return of the King. I'm going to check that out. A lot of these other people that I'm listening to about this stuff, they are not saying, oh, this has to be it. These are the dates. They're like, okay, when we're using these calendars, it seems like this is the date. And if this is correct, then this day is going to be Shavuot. This day is going to be Pentecost. We should look on those days, right? And they even give error, like, hey, we could be off by a few days because of this, that, or the other thing. And yeah, but this guy is like making a matter of fact, this is the time, but his math and his logic is completely off. And I find it strange that this guy's getting that many likes and he's getting that many views, and it's like people not paying attention. What's going on here? But as you can see, I'm going to be looking at some other people and what they have to say about what's going on. And you may be one of those people that's saying, well, you don't know the day or the hour, right? You're probably thinking of something like this. Matthew 24, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only, right? So we need to take this into context of what he's saying here, right? He says, but as the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Right? And it says, for as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark. And they knew not the flood came and took them all away, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Right? So in this context, these people who are Christians actually condemn themselves as being, I guess you would say, unsaved. Because it's saying here that the unsaved people did not know the day. They did not know the hour. They did know that the flood came. Do you think Noah was oblivious to this? He spent like 120 years building this ark. And then he had the animals come in and he was told to go in. And then God closed that door. So he knew exactly when things were going to get started. It was the people on the outside who had no idea what was going on, right? And he might have not have known the exact day or hour until, it was just about that time where he's like, oh, today's the day. And then, oh, the hour's approaching, right? He probably didn't know too far ahead of time, but he had a good idea, right? And another thing you need to take into consideration is that it does not mean you would not know the times of the seasons or the years in the general frame of the year when this would happen. As Paul tells us that, you're not ignorant, you know the times and the seasons, right? And he's actually referring to rapture and the return of Jesus, that you'll figure out the times or the years and the seasons. So you'll get the general year and the season down, but you might have trouble figuring out the day and hour. And I think there's a good reason to that because of two things. One is we got all kinds of jacked up calendars, and we're not super proficient at understanding and telling the times in the season by the sun, moon, and stars. So that's going to, hinder us. We might have a good idea to figure out a year and a season, but the actual day and hour, I think, is going to be very difficult. Not that it can't be done, but I think it's going to be very difficult. And the second reason why I think that would be is because I think Satan is also being left in the dark, right? Because there's a lot of talk about coming as a thief, right? And it's not to us that he comes as a thief. As a matter of fact, he actually tells the church here in Revelation chapter 3, at verse 3, he says, if therefore thou shalt not watch, watch for his return, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. This right here is telling you that if you watch, he won't come upon you as a thief. You'll know when he's coming. And you'll even be able to know the hour. Right? This is what he's telling the church. Like you said, if you got the context here, it's saying that the outside world won't know that time. Right? And another thing when he says, of that day and hour knoweth no man, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. This is in the moment that Jesus is right here saying this. That does not mean that things have not changed from then. Right? Or cannot change from then. That's another thing you need to actually consider. Right? Yeah, so with that being said, I just wanted to put a correction here to what this guy's saying, how it doesn't make sense, and also to why I'm bother even looking, because I feel it. I know it's coming. I might not figure it out, but I know it soon. I know days that make sense to me are number one, the Feast of Trumpets. Number two would be Ascension Day. And number three would be Pentecost. But all the feast days look like they could be rapture days. But those are the ones that stick out to me. And the reason why is because, like with Pentecost, we have the outpouring of the Holy Spirit and what a lot of people say is the birth of the church. I see that as a possible time to be raptured, where we're taken up and then the Spirit is poured out on the 144,000 and on the two witnesses, and they're anointed to do their work, right? We're sealed with the Holy Spirit within us, but they're going to have it poured out upon them, right? So this could be that event, right? We're taken up, and then the Spirit's poured out, like we see with Elijah and Elisha. I pronounce it clearly so you know they're two different people, Elijah and Elisha. One with a J, one with an S. I know you're probably familiar with it, but a lot of people are not. So I want to make it clear. Two different people. Elijah is taken up, and when he's taken up to heaven, a double portion of the Spirit is poured on Elisha, who's left behind, right? Because he witnesses this event. So I was thinking Pentecost could be that, right? I'm not sure what day Elijah was taken up, but it could have something to do with Pentecost. Now, Ascension Day actually makes a lot of sense to me when I was thinking, when people talk about the rapture, I was like, how come nobody's talking about when Jesus actually was ascended? And now all of a sudden, that's what everybody's talking about, which is great, because a lot of people are looking to this Ascension Day, which would be between, some people are getting it as soon as June 3rd, and as late as June 8th. Some people have it a little bit different, actually, but from looking at 7 Sabbaths from the Passover, it makes sense to be around the 5th would be, like we see here, after the Sabbath here on the 4th, that would be the 7th Sabbath, counting from Passover over here in April. And it was a few days before that Jesus ascended, so, the 3rd seems like that could be it, right? So, uh, yeah, that makes sense to me because that's when Jesus went up. He's the head of the church, the head of the body. The rest of the body would go up, right? And we get an idea of that in Revelation chapter 12, where people are looking at the Revelation 12 sign, and uh, the Israel gives birth to the man-child. The man-child's taken up, and the man-child's not fully taken up until his feet are taken up, which is ourselves. So we're taken up, right? And then the dragon goes and makes war with the woman, Israel, right? So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. But then at the same time, Feast of Trumpets just kind of screams at you because you see a wedding within it, and the Jews look at that as the wedding of the Messiah. Very interesting stuff with that. You have Paul saying at that last trump, and they have a something like 99 trump blasts. I don't know if the 99th is the last or the 100th is the last trump, and that's when the dead are supposed to rise and the people get caught up. So it's kind of like there's a lot to do with the Feast of Trumpets there. It has to do with a marriage and 7 days. So you get the 7-year tribulation, a 7-day honeymoon kind of thing going on. I mean, it would be pretty amazing that it all fit to that. I mean, it makes the most sense to me there. Uh, Number 2, I would say Ascension. Number 3, I would say Pentecost. And then after that, it's like I think it could be anywhere. I mean, it could make sense at a Passover, at a first fruits. I mean, I'm pretty sure you could think of stuff for unleavened bread and atonement and tabernacles and what have you. I'm pretty sure you can find reasons to think that a rapture would happen then. I've even heard good reasons for Hanukkah, right? So, yeah, just stuff to think about. And that's that. Keep your wits about yourself. Think about these things. When people are saying things and they seem to make sense, just take a moment and think about it. Like right here, I was like, this is not right. You can't have this the first and this the Passover. That just, no. The blood moon doesn't dictate the Passover. It's the 14th day of the month. But what are you going to do, right? So anyway, thanks for watching and take care.